Whoa, what's going on? Welcome back to another video. In today's video, I'm going to break down if you actually need a job for when you're at university and the ways in which I tend to finance my studies alongside my student loan. I'm just trying to make that little extra cash and the ways and tips and tricks that you can do to try and help yourself out. Let's get into it. Generally, university financing and money options are pretty simple. I've made a video already about this subject, so head over to the card up here or go down to the link in the description and you can watch that video before watching this video, just because I help you out a little bit more and break down student finance options and other bits and bobs before we move on to the topic of jobs. But the main sort of thing that you will get from university is obviously your student financing and possibly even some money from your parents. But if you want to buy stuff for yourself, or maybe even supplementing your student loan, you're probably going to need to get a job. But in this video, I'm going to break down why having a job is pretty difficult, especially when it comes to working at university, and the tips and tricks that I used to make the most out of having a job. Simply put, in the first semester of my university experience, I didn't work at all. I had the odd job there and back when I was at home, but I never really did like a full-time job or a part-time job with set hours at university, mainly because I wanted to focus on my studies and make sure that I was making the best out of the worst in terms of the COVID sort of pandemic year. I did, however, work when I was back, especially at Christmas time, Easter time and summertime. And I worked for the Waitrose partnership. So that's local branch back home. I basically do all the counters. So I work meat, fish, patisserie, and deli as well. And that earns quite a substantial amount of money. So if I work pretty much full time over the Christmas period, I'm looking in the region of £1,000 to £2,000 for when I come back. Obviously, that does take up quite a chunk of my time. I'm doing anywhere in the neighbourhood to like 37.5 hours a week. Maybe even more with overtime, and it does take quite a toll, especially being tired, doing the shifts, getting the shifts, all that sort of stuff is a real sort of hassle. But then what I found as well is, especially coming up to the summer sort of term, in the end of the academic year, I was offered the role of a student ambassador. So I'm sure you've seen in some of the other videos me in my pink hoodie and pink shirt, and that is a student ambassador role. So as a student ambassador, as part of the university, in this case Bournemouth University for me, you basically take people on tours around campus site, you help with general day-to-day activities, you help people with inductions, all this sort of stuff, and you basically get compensated for your time with money, like any other job. This is a little bit more flexible, as you only have set 0-hour shift contracts. So you get an offer for a job and you accept or you reject it, and then you get signed on to that sort of shift on a daily basis. So as an example, I worked a 4-hour shift yesterday, and that pocketed me in the neighbourhood of about £40. So it's pretty good in terms of per hourly rate, but you don't get a holiday accruing. So that is obviously a factor to consider. But if you want to take into account actually getting a job, you need to take into account also the amount of time that you're going to need to focus on your studies. So most universities tend to recommend not having a job at all, but they also identify that you do need some sort of financial help in terms of actually being able to provide a decent university experience. So with Bournemouth University, they tend to suggest having a job that will cover 15 hours of time outside of your studies, and that would pretty much fit alongside what they do. With my contract being a student ambassador, I'm only allowed to work a maximum of 15 hours alongside a term time obligation. Outside of that, so at Christmas or at summer, I can work more, but 15 hours is pretty much a solid. If you're thinking of it, 15 hours is pretty much 2 8-hour shifts, which is almost 2 days worth of work. So that can be a whole weekend worth of work, or maybe a couple of nights in the week. But 15 hours is that sweet spot in terms of balancing your studies and also balancing your work. In a student's town or a city, there are always opportunities to find jobs in a variety of different places. Restaurants are always looking for people, bars are always looking for people, and like I mentioned as well, the university are always looking for people to do ambassador roles or jobs. There are certain deadlines in terms of when you can apply for said roles, but most of the time they have applications throughout the year, and you can normally fill in a position as and when you need it. I would normally recommend applying for a job after you've settled into university, not as you're going to university. Apply for a job when you know what your timetable is going to be like, when you know you can manage your work, manage all the stress, all that sort of stuff, and then opt to getting a job. I wouldn't say dive straight into it, because otherwise you're going to overwhelm yourself and you're not going to get the best university experience possible. I hope this chit chat video has helped you in some way and given you a little bit more of an insight on my sort of thoughts in terms of getting jobs, and also like a guide and a basis for how I got my money in my sort of terms at university. If you like these videos, if you don't mind hitting like, that would really help the channel out, and hitting subscribe as well to stay up to date with more content. That's been all for today's video, and I hope I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you very much for watching. See ya!